Hi everyone, I'm Stephanie Weaver here in the Blue and Yellow Kitchen with Microwave Boy on the camera, Daisy Mae the Golden Retriever being crazy out in the living room, and my guest today is Ronni Robinson, who is the author of Out of the Pantry, A Disordered Eating Journey. Welcome, Ronni.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Well, congratulations, it's your publication week, so yay, Pub Week. It's very exciting for authors.
Thank you.
Most people who are not authors have no idea why it's exciting to us, but it really is, so we're very happy to be able to celebrate your publication week with you. And Ronni's book, I just finished, it's a brave, helpful memoir that pointed out some ways that my old patterns of disordered eating have returned during the pandemic. So I'm going to share a little bit about that. We're going to talk about Ronni's book and her whole experience. And today we're starting a little bit differently. I wanted Ronni to read part of her prologue because I think it'll jump us right into the heart of the story and kind of we'll then explore some of the themes and ideas that she brings forward in the book. So take it away.
And here we go. Alyssa, honey, Mommy is hungry, so please take me the crust when you're finished, I lied to my daughter. I wasn't hungry, I just had to have the crust. My disordered brain could not stop focusing on it. Okay, Mommy. Though I felt a sense of urgency on the inside, I managed to smile. Promise? Promise, she smiled back. My little girl had no idea of the urgency of my request, how important it was to me that she saved me the crust. While I hadn't given in to binge eating in 5 months and considered myself abstinent in recovery from eating disorder, I still fixated on food and often still battled compulsive eating tendencies. At odd moments, I was still grabbing food without thinking when I wasn't hungry. I was still watching the clock until the next time I could eat. I was working at the cotton candy machine at my children's school carnival. Alyssa, a 4th grader, was hanging out with me and another mom when she said she was hungry, so I took her to the pizza stand and bought her 1 slice and a bottle of water. Though I knew I would have my own slice a little later as part of the food plan I developed for the day, I couldn't stop thinking about how much I wanted to eat the crust of her pizza, which I knew she didn't like. I rationalized that it would only be 1 additional pizza crust and was outside my food plan, and I also knew I would be accountable for it, dutifully recording it in my daily food log that evening. A large slice of pizza on a flimsy paper plate can be challenging for a 9-year-old to balance on her lap. It didn't take long for the pizza to slip off the plate and down to the ground. Even though it landed crust down, and I'm a 5-second rule mom in the house, we both knew the pizza was trash. As we approached the pizza stand for another slice, I explained to Alyssa that she needed to hold the plate tighter so the pizza didn't slide off again. I was still thinking about that crust and reminded her, somewhat urgently, that Mommy wants to have it. We got her slice and she sat back down. I served some people cotton candy, and the next thing I knew, I saw my daughter walking back the 15 steps from the large trash can in the middle of the food area after throwing out her plate. She threw her crust away. The crust that I had asked her for more than once. I could feel my heart beating faster. Desire ran through me from head to toe. My only goal, my only focus, was eating that crust. Alyssa, I told you to save that crust for Mommy, I scolded, uncharacteristic harshness in my voice. Sorry, Mommy, I forgot. She looked down to the ground, but then her head popped up when she saw a friend and she skimmed off. Don't you know how important that crust was to me? Without thinking, I strode to the trash can and confirmed that my daughter's paper plate, with her napkin placed neatly over the remaining bites, was sitting right there on top of the rubbish. I grabbed it and started biting off chunks of crust while returning to the cotton candy station. Though the crust was burnt and less doughy than I liked, my mind had been made up to eat that crust. There was no turning back. Suddenly, my brain clicked. I realized that at a school event, in front of many parents, teachers, and children I knew, I had retrieved food out of a public trash can and was eating it in plain view. And I had practically yelled at my daughter for throwing it away.
Wow. So, I don't know about you all watching, but when I read that, not only did I 100% relate, unfortunately, to a lot of the feelings that you expressed, but I was just blown away by your honesty and your bravery and willingness to just really go there. So first of all, I just want to thank you for that, and I want to thank you for the book because it has really reminded me of some of the challenges that I've had over the past, my whole life. I started with disordered eating as a teenager, and I've really, worked on it a lot. But it's something where it's kind of always there. And for those people that don't understand, when she and I talked, we do a pre-production call for the show, and when you and I talked, I told you that my first sort of experience of recognizing something sort of similar was when I had a wonderful roommate named Janice, who's still a friend, and when I was probably 23, and Janice got her groceries that week, and she bought a package of Vienna sandwich cookies, so Vienna fingers, I think they were called. They're long, skinny vanilla sandwich cookies. I don't particularly like vanilla sandwich cookies, but Janice would eat one, and then she would put the package up on the top of the fridge. And then maybe a week later, she'd have another one, and then eventually the cookies would go stale, and the entire time I was like, there's cookies on the fridge, there's cookies on the fridge, there's cookies on the fridge, but they're not mine, I can't have any, there's cookies on the fridge. And so when I started reading your book, I was like, oh man, this is a soul sister, unfortunately. And I just want to thank you for, for your willingness to share. So that was a lot about me, and this is about you today. So so tell us a little bit about your process of that you share in the book about realizing that you have an addiction, and then kind of learning that really it's a mental illness is how you describe it. And I'll let you chat for a little bit.
Well, unbeknownst to me, I did have this eating disorder, the compulsive overeating, binging, whatever you want to call it. It was also emotional eating, and stress eating too. I had since I was about 9, and it began with mostly with one certain event that I'm going to leave for you to hopefully read. But it also was in combination with the dysfunctional house that I grew up in. My parents were not warm and fuzzy, and in particular, I didn't have in my mother a strong adult female role model. So I started at around 9, going around the corner to the supermarket using my allowance money or my birthday money and buying myself. I would get like a 2-pound bag of M&Ms, come home, eat it in one sitting with nobody home in secret, and then shoving the packaging down under the trash can. And this went on, unfortunately, in various forms for 30 years. I didn't know why I needed to eat sweets and other, not so healthy foods, but I just felt this urge, this compulsion inside of me that I couldn't even name, that I just needed to stuff myself with food. I did it, it was always in secret, I was ashamed, I would eat normal in front of other people, and then, in private times I would stuff my face. I wasn't hungry, hunger and fullness had no place in my world at all. It was just, I was obsessed with eating food. And it drove me for 30 years. I had no idea that I had an eating disorder. It never occurred to me. I just thought I was a pig. And it was just my normal. I mean, it was 3 decades of my life. And it wasn't until one night when my husband, I think, was maybe out at a sports event, and my 2 kids were in bed, and I was watching television, and I heard the words compulsive overeating. And I was like, huh. It just kind of struck me, and I don't know, I may have heard those words before, but it never maybe I sometimes think everything happens for a reason, and at that moment my mind was open to hearing that. So I went and sat down on my computer, and I started Googling, and I found, I'm sure there were other websites, but the Overeaters Anonymous one was very prevalent, and it was very prominent on the front page. It says, are you one of us? And it had, I think, 15 or 20 questions. Do you do this? Do you do that? Have you done this? Have you done that? And I was answering yes to almost every question. And I had this, aha moment where I realized, oh my God, this is me. I have an eating disorder, and I was shocked that there was even a website about it. I thought it was just me. There was nobody else. It was just me and the thing that I did.
Yes.
I thought there was a website devoted to it, and I learned when I was looking online that an eating disorder is a mental illness. It was all very, very emotional for me to be identifying that I had a problem, to realize that it was a mental illness. very emotional, and I, right then and there, as being a writer for a long time prior, my first inclination was to type out a letter to my husband to share it with him, because I knew if I told him, I was already crying,
Yes.
just seeing all this stuff.
Yes.
I knew I would never get through a conversation, so I wrote it out for him and printed it. I waited until he came home and let him read it. And I thought for sure he would be like, this, my wife is broken and she has all this baggage, and I don't want to, I don't want to be a part of this. I'm going to take the kids and we're out of here. But thankfully, he just held me and let me cry on his shoulder and said, I'm going to help you and we're going to get this.
That's awesome. So I just wanted to respond. That was amazing, and I'm so glad that husband number 2 is a good guy. He's clearly a good guy. I kind of have a little bit of a crush on him actually after reading the book. He sounds amazing. So I just want to be clear that we're not talking about weight loss. We're not talking about that aspect of this. Certainly, Ronnie, you experienced being heavier than you felt comfortable, and you've experienced being at a weight that feels more comfortable to you. But what we're really talking about is an unhealthy relationship with food, and particular foods. And I think the reason I asked her to read, or asked you to read the prologue, is because that obsession with the pizza crust, and even acting in a way that's not normal for you with your child, is an example of what that looks like out in the world, right? And that shame of not even telling anyone, hiding wrappers in the trash. I've certainly done that. So I just wanted to be really clear, we're not talking about losing weight or things like that. It's really about just an unhealthy way of relating to food. And it's because for different reasons, we both found food to be a comfort. And instead of dealing with those problems that we had, or getting the help that we needed as kids, really, that's just a way that it's sort of socially acceptable. You can eat, and especially if you do it in secret and you're not getting drunk and you're showing up for work and you look fine, no one's gonna think that there's something wrong. And so that's why I really appreciated how honest you were in the book. And the book kind of covers sort of the difficult period of your life, and then you get into your recovery. And so you used both Overeaters Anonymous and therapy, and then you also have always been an athlete, which I think is really amazing, and you turned to triathlons as a way, not to lose weight, to be clear again, but it was a way to channel some of this maybe energy, and also into your taking care of your body in a different way. Was how I read it, and it was just I was like really cheering you on during that part of the book, so that was really cool. So what we want to do today is I'm going to talk a little bit about what I'm making. So I'm making something that Ronnie, so I'm showing this to you. You can see that. So this is a quinoa, black bean, and curry greens bowl. And so this is something that when Ronnie, and I'll have her talk about that, the difference between like living to eat and eating to live, right? I think that was kind of a turning point for you. And this is the sort of food that when you start getting out of a disordered eating pattern, you start recognizing that, oh, I really want to have a ton of nutrition in what I eat. I really want to give my body things that are going to feel good. And so something like this, I'm not saying this is the only way to eat, but can be something that I would imagine you might have eaten as a triathlete, when you had to have a lot of calories, but you were also trying to get a lot of good fat and fiber and carbohydrates to fuel you. Do you want to talk a little bit about that, and then I'll explain what I'm making?
Yeah, the triathlon was, as you touched upon, was a great, I got into triathlon, like you said, I'd always been an athlete. I was a runner up until I became a triathlete. And triathlon really, one of the things I learned in therapy was the way to give food less importance and less focus in my life was to make other parts of my life bigger. And triathlon was such a perfect thing for that, because as an A-type personality, I was all in. There was swimming, biking, running, so I needed to, learn and do, and there's so, I subscribed to magazines, and I did all these things, and it was my training plans and what races I'm going to do, and it was very consuming. which was great because it took so much emphasis off of what I was eating, and I had this other passion that now I had in my life I didn't have before. And it was interesting that I found, so you would think, okay, you can eat anything with all the hours you're training, but the truth was there was really a difference if I ate some junk. I felt like crap when I was, on my bike ride, or I was running or swimming. And I realized, that was really the juxtaposition in my life where I went from living to eat to eating to live and to fuel my body. Food is fuel. And that's when it really came to be when I was, training 15, 16, 17 hours a week. I really had to eat in a way that would give my body the fuel it needed to perform at the way I wanted to perform, that I knew I was capable of performing.
Right. That's great.
So it's very much, looking for nutritionally dense foods, like you had said, the healthy fats, carbohydrates, and proteins, and finding that right balance that I needed so that I felt good doing my workouts, that I got the most out of my workouts, and that I could perform well in races.
That's great. So, and I just want to make a comment about junk food. So, I talk in my book, The Migraine Relief Plan, I don't think there's any evil foods. I think there's foods that are helpful choices and unhelpful choices for us. And depending on what's going on with your life, with your health, they can look different at different times in your life. So I was going to reveal the food that I have developed an unhealthy relationship with during the pandemic. It is Tostitos queso by the jar. So this is not an evil food. There's nothing inherently wrong with eating queso. So just to be clear that's not what I'm saying. I'm dairy sensitive, so not helpful for me to eat something that's made from cheese. There's also MSG in it, which can be a migraine trigger, not helpful for me to eat. And I'm also on a low sodium diet because of my migraines and vertigo. This is not a low sodium food particularly. So that's 3 reasons why I really shouldn't be eating it. But what I found during the pandemic when things kind of locked down was I started just becoming obsessed with what I couldn't have. And that I can't go shopping twice a week, and I can't get the things that I want. And for some reason, they had this at the corner store. I started buying jars of it. If they were out of it, I got really upset. I found it at CVS, and I bought 3 jars. I mean, it was clearly not a healthy relationship with this food that is, not necessarily an evil food. It's super tasty. So what I wanted to do today was to make a smoky, creamy almond sauce, which kind of fits some of these same kind of the mouthfeel and the yumminess. The queso is very creamy and makes a bowl like this. A bowl like this is a lot nicer with a nice creamy sauce on it. So the recipe is from my blog, and it'll be in the comments. And the other thing I wanted to touch on, so it's made with almonds. You want to soak the almonds for at least 4 hours or overnight. And then I'm recommending, because I just learned this today, that you drop them into boiling water for 1 minute, because then the skins just pop right off super easily. And I also find that this experience of doing this, kind of like chopping vegetables, is very much a mindfulness meditation for me. And one of the ways I've started to shift, and clearly I'm still in process, my relationship with food is by putting my fork down in between bites, really looking at the food, really taking the time in preparation. And that is part of the shift that I think Ronni is reflecting when she's talking about eating to live, and that it's fuel for us. It's not just reward or treat or solace. And so that, for me, can be a nice part of this process of making this almond spread. Or it's a sauce. So I'm going to put the soaked skinned almonds in there. The reason you take the skins off, it makes them a little more digestible, and there's also a bitter element in the skins, and the sauce is a lot more creamy if you take it out. So we've got a 1/4 cup of healthy oil, so you could use avocado oil, or I'm using extra virgin olive oil for this. And then we've got some lemon juice, and a whole clove of garlic peeled, about 6 tablespoons of water. And then our spices are, so this is nutritional yeast. So those of you who eat plant-based, you'll know exactly what this is, and the rest of you will have no idea what I'm talking about. It's a product you find in health food stores or natural food stores that adds kind of a cheesy element, and it's not migraine friendly, but it is really tasty in something like this. We've got some cumin, some white pepper, and some smoked paprika. So like my 3 favorite spices, right, go in there. And then a tablespoon of tamari, which is a soy sauce, or Bragg's liquid aminos. Tamari is gluten-free, or I use the coconut aminos, which are similar, but they're completely, they're soy-free altogether, because soy is a little bit of a problem for me. Again, not a evil food, just doesn't work for me. Now, this is very exciting because Microwave Boy is actually going to get to microwave something today. So I'm going to hand the bowl off to Microwave Boy. He's going to put that in there for 2 minutes. And I'm going to blend, and then we're going to, we'll trim the video so you don't have to listen to me blending. So we'll be right back. Blending complete. Let's take a look at that bowl, Microwave Boy. Hand it over. There we go. All right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put just a little bit of diced avocado on top for, again, some more healthy, yummy fat. And then, I should have taken that lid off already. Pull out a spoon. I was not ready. Okay, let's take a look at our yummy creamy sauce. Ooh, delish. Okay, it's even sort of the same color as the queso. Not that I'm trying to pretend. I'm going to walk it up just so you can see, because I know it's nice to see the close-up of the bowl. Nice and warm. Super yummy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That looks great.
So, and I have, regularly have some kind of vegetable hash or curried greens or something to make up the quinoa in advance. I use the Instant Pot to make my beans. And so this is just a super hearty combination that is, you can also add meat. So I have some turkey sloppy joes in the fridge. So you will maybe do those instead of the beans or in addition to the beans. And so, and then depending on what your regular eating plan is, maybe this is a little bit too much of a serving for you, or maybe it's half as much as you would eat. That's not the point. The point is that there's a ton of nutrition in this bowl, and it's also got that really rich, creamy element that sort of satisfies that. I'm just stirring it up a little bit to have a bite. That really satisfies that sort of queso thing that I have going on that clearly I need to work on a little bit. So, yeah. So do you have any final thoughts for us while I'm tasting?
No final thoughts other than I'm just so thrilled to be here, that you, invited me to be here. I just love seeing this whole process, and I'm really grateful and I'm sure many other authors are as well, that you're working with. It's so kind of you to want to do this for us. It's really kind of you. Absolutely.
Well, we're all part of the community. So it's super tasty. It is from my blog. I'll share you the link so you can check it out for yourselves. The buy link for Ronnie's book, which launches this week, is in the comments on the Facebook page, Stephanie Weaver MPH. So if you're watching this on IGTV, you will need to go over to Facebook, or you can just search the title on Amazon, because that's where you'll find it.
Title is
Out of the Pantry. And Ronni Robinson, RONNI Robinson.com is her website. You can find all of her social media accounts there. We also ask that if you know any friends that you think would be interested in watching this, and you do, you have people in your life that probably would find this helpful, please share the video with them, because that's what we're all about, is just helping people find resources. And Ronni does have a bunch of very helpful resources in the back of her book, so while it is a pure memoir, she also gives you lots of links and websites and things that you can check out if any of this sounds familiar to you. You can follow me, S. Weaver MPH, on social media. We want to thank you so much for being here. Thanks so much, Ronni. Good luck with your launch.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
You're welcome. Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.